You can learn photography basics like ISO, shutter speed, aperture, really pretty much anywhere. But in this video, I'm going to share 9 more unexpected photography lessons that completely changed how I approach photography and that 100% made me a more well-rounded and better photographer. And these are lessons that really nobody told me when I started taking photos. And if you're curious now, then keep watching to find out what these photography lessons are. So I'm a fine art photographer. I take mostly self-portraits. And I recently went to a sort of photography convention or creative photography conference organized by photographer Brooke Shaden. And at that event, I met so many photographers and artists who taught me lessons that you really will not learn in a classroom. And the first of those lessons is that how you talk about your work really matters. And this really is a lesson for all the creatives out there, all you creatives out there, not just photographers. To illustrate this, let me introduce you to fictional photographer A, and let's pretend this is how they talk about their work. Oh, well, yeah, these are just some pictures I took of the model who was so great. I don't think I did it justice. I don't know, I played around in Photoshop a little bit, but just couldn't get the effect I really wanted. So yeah, these are alright, really. I don't know if I would call them art. I mean, it's not something I could get published or anything. Compare this to fictional photographer B, who is a bit better at talking about their work. So they might speak a bit more like this. Let me present this recent fine art series consisting of 6 photographs. This series is part of an ongoing project dedicated to the topic of X. I worked with a beautiful model who really helped bring my vision to life. I used a wide-angle lens for the series to create a cinematic effect, and I also color graded my images to really underscore that moody atmosphere. These images came out exactly how I imagined them, and it really was such an enjoyable project. So honestly now, which of those photographers, fictional photographers, sounds more competent, more self-assured, and basically more professional? To be honest, I myself have probably spoken a bit more like photographer A in this example in the past, but after going to this conference, I have totally changed that, because I really realized if you don't speak about your work like it matters, nobody will. So don't fall into this trap of being super self-deprecating and talking badly about your work. You've probably put a lot of time and energy into your photography or your art, so don't make yourself small when you talk about it to others. Okay, then lesson number 2, which is gear is so much less important than you think. So in photography, I think there's a huge tendency to focus on gear and on tech stuff. I've taken a lot of photography courses in the past, and I think most of the questions people ask are something like, what camera brand should I buy? What focal length is best? What lens produces the sharpest images? Should I shoot DSLR or mirrorless and stuff like that? And of course, these things matter, obviously, but what matters even more is your artistic eye and your vision as a photographer. So don't focus so much on gear and rather ask yourself questions like, is this the best composition for my subject? Or will this lighting choice create the effect I want in the photo? Could I frame my subject in a more interesting way? Should I do this in black and white or in color? Is there any emotional narrative I want to convey? And so on. The photographers I met at that conference, pretty much none of them were gear focused at all. Instead, they focused on topics like composition, lighting, framing, and it really showed. All the work I saw during that week was really beautiful and really artistic, and I didn't ask once what camera did you use. I really didn't even think to ask that, because it was so much more about their artistic vision and the narrative they were trying to convey in their photos. Then, photography lesson number 3 I learned is that collaboration can be fun, even for introverts. So I am really the introvert. And I never work with anybody. I usually work by myself. I take self-portraits anyway, so I don't need a model or anything. And that's all nice. But I realized at this convention that actually even I sometimes enjoy collaborating with people. Because what happened at that conference is that 2 different photographers asked me to model for them. And despite feeling really nervous about it, I said yes. And I took a few shots with them. Or rather, they took shots of me. And it was so enjoyable, and I was really shocked how much I liked it. And so my lesson I took away is that you don't always need to do everything yourself. It can actually be fun to collaborate with somebody. So yeah, if you're also the more shy and introverted type, perhaps challenge yourself to work with somebody else, like a makeup artist or a model or something, just to get a bit outside your comfort zone, and you might make something even more amazing that way. Okay, and then the next lesson, lesson number 4, is that sometimes you just don't know what to shoot, and that's really totally okay. So at the event, the organizer rented this beautiful house that we were allowed to shoot in, and it was meant to be this really creative session, and I was really excited about it. But when I got there, I just felt it was a bit too cramped, and I felt kind of self-conscious taking self-portraits in front of everybody, and all the good spots were taken, and I just wasn't feeling it. I was also a bit jet-lagged and tired, I guess. So yeah, I could have gotten very frustrated thinking, oh, now we have this perfect space and I need to take good photos. But I just wasn't feeling inspired, and that's that. And sometimes you don't feel inspired. And instead I went back to my room, I had a coffee, I rested, and then actually later on I felt inspired again to take some self-portraits by myself, by the lake, and I really liked how those turned out. So that's the lesson. You're not an athlete who has to perform every day at highest level. Sometimes you're just not feeling it, and that's fine. And then instead do something different that's fun and relaxing, and then get back to your photography when you feel like it. By the way, this is my reminder to subscribe to this channel if you like this video. And in fact, it would also help me a lot if you press the like button right now. Thank you so much. Now back to the video. Okay, let's move on to lesson number 5, which is that it's always worth exploring alternative methods. So at this event, at this conference, I attended a mixed media photography workshop, and it gave me so many new ideas what I could do with my photos. There was another workshop about platinum palladium printing, which is a very historical printing process, and people really enjoyed that. And so this is just to say you don't need to stick to the same thing. You don't need to always take your digital camera and, the same lens you always use. Sometimes that's a bit boring. Maybe try shooting film, or try actually doing black and white photography and developing it yourself in a darkroom. You can book a course for that. You can play around with mixed media. You could paint on a print. There's so much to do. I'm actually going to link you some blog posts I wrote about this topic in the description. So yeah, that's really also my lesson from that conference. There's so much to explore. Don't box yourself into one technique just because you've always done that. Okay, moving on to lesson number 6 I took away from that conference. This is a bit of a shift of tone now, but I realized that photography really can be a tool for healing. And that's because at that event, there was a photographer there who's called Nancy Borowick, who is amazing. Check her out. I'm going to link her website. And at the event, she showed us a series that documented her parents' battle with cancer. Both of them had cancer. And this was a very painful project, but as I understood it from her talk, it was also a very healing journey, and also a kind of way to create a legacy and, to create memories and to capture memories with her parents. And so, yeah, hearing her talk about this kind of confirmed something I knew all along in a way, instinctively, is that art is a healing tool. I sometimes use it that way. If I have a bad experience, I often turn that into a photo, and it's really a way to process emotions, kind of like maybe a poem would be if you're a writer. So yeah, next time you're going through a difficult time, maybe just grab your camera and document it and see how that feels for you. Okay, now moving on to lesson number 7. And that is that photography can really just be a hobby. So I am a professional self-portrait photographer, so I'm doing this as a job, or rather educating others about it. But it doesn't have to be. At this conference, there were lots of photographers who do day jobs or whatever. They have different jobs, and they just do photography as a passion in their free time because they love it. And they're not trying to sell prints or make a website or like market themselves. They're just having a nice time. So you don't always have to create a business out of it. If you just enjoy it because it's fun, then let that be that. And you don't need to force yourself always to make it work. Yeah, I think that's a nice lesson too. It doesn't always have to be so serious. Okay, lesson number 8, penultimate lesson, is that this is so great. Everybody has a different point of view. So at this event, there were lots of models that were booked, and people were often photographing them in the same spot, in very photogenic spots, or in the same costumes. And you might think that if 80 people take a photo of one model in one dress at this tree, that they will all take the same photo, but it's really not the case. Amazingly, you will get very different photos because people use different compositions, different framing, different lenses. They might focus more on color or composition. So this is really amazing actually, because it means that there's always room for your unique point of view. I think people always say the market is very saturated, but I disagree with that. I think nobody will take the photo like you will, and therefore there is room for you because everybody has a unique point of view. And I really got that confirmed during this event. Okay, and the last lesson is that inspiration is truly found anywhere. So as I mentioned with this conference, I didn't really feel inspired at that beautiful house that was rented for the occasion, but I found a very unexpected inspiration one day when I was going to the bathroom, to the restroom, and they had this funky wallpaper in the hallway there. And I just thought, that looks so cool. I really want to take a photo here. So I just grabbed a tripod and took self-portraits in front of this toilet wall, essentially. And I definitely got some weird looks, but I just found it really inspiring. And photos didn't turn out perfect because I didn't have an artificial light source. It was a bit dark. But that's fine. I felt inspired in the moment and I really enjoyed myself. So yeah, the takeaway is that sometimes the most interesting subject is what other people don't consider photo worthy. So whenever you do feel the urge to take a photo, please just do it. Don't miss out on that moment. Just follow that impulse because you might be annoyed if you let the moment pass. And that's it for today. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe. You can also check out my other videos, of course, and my blog, which I will link below. And I'll see you next time. Bye!